guys, and you already know what this video is if you clicked on it. It's the 31st. I'm probably going to be posting this in April, unfortunately for y'all, but I did finish my book. This is not the original book, but I finished a book. Let's get into it. As you know, what we do summary and then we do thoughts and questions and whatever I was thinking about at the end because that's just a separation we have. And recently my videos have been like almost an hour long. And I need to cut it down because I say these books aren't even past a 7, and yet I'm speaking as if it's the best book in the world. So I need to shut it down with my speaking and just make it like a 20-minute video because that editing process is insane. But let's just get into it. This is not the original book I was reading. Also, spoiler alert, obviously. This is not the original book I was reading before, but I was reading 2 books at the same time a few months ago, and this book never got finished until like literally today. And the other book is like 800 pages. So I'm still working through that book to this day. So that might be in my next video because I do not want people to text me, why did it take you for to read like a 300 page book? I don't want to hear it. This is not the original book. All right, great. Disclaimer over. This book is called Misdemeanor. And yes, we are in a different place right now. This is not my usual room, but I thought, let me not situate myself in a dark room for once and do a book reading out here. If I had a candle, it would make more sense, but I don't have a candle. So, Misdemeanor. And it's kind of a funny play on words, if you're being honest. But essentially, this book is about this lawyer woman who was having she was having sex on top of her roof with a guy from her job. And some people who were in her building, they were watching at her and being like, oh my God, this woman is having sex in public. And then they called the police on her. And then she got suspended from law and she got a misdemeanor and got 6 months of house arrest at her home. Yada. There she met her future boo, Perry, who's an art dealer, but also is under house arrest for stealing some art to sell for medical treatment. I think his parents needed it or whatever the heck, or an anniversary thing, right? And so they're in the same apartment, they're in the same 6 months, they get to know each other. At first it becomes more of a I bring you food since you don't know how to cook, you gave me good company, but you also pay me because I don't got money for 6 months. And also she has a sister. Misdemeanor is not her real name. Her name is Jane Morgan. She has a twin sister named Jacqueline Morgan, who is a successful cosmetologist slash plastic surgeon of the face, I guess. And she is more successful, has more money, but she's also known as a better sister in people's eyes. They're also almost 40, so take what you will with that, but they still very much act like twins. There's that story. There's like 20 people, so we're kind of running through it. There's Mandy, who is Jane's new best friend, not best friend, but new friend in her apartment. She's a dentist. She's also kind of analytical in her thinking, but she wants a man. So she gets with this guy who has his visa expired days prior. He is from Russia. He is from a wealthy family in Russia with his sister, not twin sister, but older sister. I don't know their names. Here are their names right here. And she gets with him so that he can have paper and she can be with a mildly attractive man. Doesn't work out. He ends up going to jail with his sister for a different crime altogether. They're being really loud and ruckusy inside of a dentist place when they were working at. And the police were not there to arrest them for immigration problems, but because they were being so like rambunctious inside of a hospital, essentially, they got arrested. They got ran through the system. The system said they're not supposed to be in this country, so they had to go through a plea deal. Either you take prison for like doing whatever felony you were doing in that dentist place, or you go deportation. And they went for deportation instead. So they got deported. That's not the word. They got deported. I know English. And Mandy ended up not having her man anymore. They were already married and they already had a fake wedding. So she was kind of bummed out because she didn't have him. But at some point, it was just more, it felt like she was talking about herself as why didn't things work out for me? And she got mad at Jane because she believed Jane was the reason why it didn't work out. Jane's the reason why she even had a man to begin with. She was against the whole thing because she's a lawyer. So she stopped being friends with her. All right, great. So this person, the original person who actually got Jane in trouble for when she had sex on a roof and got her suspended from law was this woman. I forgot her name as well. Here you go. And she essentially was peeping through her windows and looking at the roof like, oh my God, she's having sex on the roof. And she called the police on them, right? She ended up dying a few weeks, days, whatever later. And she had a letter in her apartment saying that if anything happens to me, go to Jane. She did it. That was a crazy letter to put out. I'm not gonna lie. Thoughts at the end. But essentially, she basically, the police was like, "Oh well, you didn't do anything, Jane, because she died from pesto because she's allergic to nuts, and pesto has nuts in it." And so Jane was like, "Why would she write a letter about me when I don't know this woman? Like she literally just met her for the first time after she got a misdemeanor, right? Like the book states." But she's also the nanny of the two Russian people who came over with their visas, like where the visas expired. And there's like a whole backstory on them, which doesn't matter. Just long story short, she was a nanny, but she's also having sex with a dad. It might be the real mom of the two kids. No bigger implication than that. It's just like really more of just background story, nothing to do with the actual story. But when she died, a few months later, Mandy, who was still with the Russian man before he got deported, she told Jane, like, oh, they're looking at the letter that stated that Jane may have killed the woman, and they were laughing about it as if they knew what was going on with the letter. And she kind of insinuated that they may have given her pesto when she died. Never proven. That's actually why the police went to the dentist because they wanted to go speak to them about the death about their nanny, but they thought it was about immigration, so they made a ruckus and they got in trouble anyway for immigration. And the questions never came around to be like, "Hey, did you kill your own nanny that we all thought was an accident?" But yeah, long story short, everyone kind of had a happy ending in this story. Jane got with the man in her apartment. Jacqueline was still successful. She had issues along the way, but she's with this man who was actually kind of a piece of shit. But I guess he got better. Well, he's not the main story, nor is she, but like they got better and they got married. Okay, the parents of Jane are wonderful, nice people. The parents of her man are kind of rude. The dad is amazing. The mom is condescending, but she comes around to becoming a better person because her son Perry and her husband are both good people and are trying their best to be like, "Hey, Jane, you're really good and deserve to be in our family." And the mom is like, "Well, I'm not gonna be outshined, so she's nice, you know." Who else is in this story? That's really everyone. I just talk about her whole family right there and the family of other people. But let's talk about a little bit about what she does during the time she's in the 6 months not doing anything. Outside of her gang with a relationship with Perry, it was mostly sex. They were friends with benefits for a long time, yada yada. But during the time, she has a TikTok blog where she talks about sob stories that she had, whether at work or at home or whatever. And she cooks. She's a chef. She has like an old textbook of her. I'm not sure if it was. I think her grandmother's recipe. And on there, she makes like the weirdest comment. Like she finds like the weirdest recipes in that book, and she makes it, and then she pairs it up with a story. It's like a get ready with me and like a story time essentially. But the story times are always like I want to say sad, but they're not exactly like a cheerful story. Not anything like sad, like funerals or stuff, but just like a bad encounter or something that's embarrassing. And that's how she blew up and whatever. She stopped doing it the moment she got out of like the 6 months. She went back to doing law, but under a different company, under a different name, not name, but like a different company with an old friend. Doesn't matter. Perry, he got out of his 6 months as well. And he went right back to the old job that he had with a little help from Jane, his little boo thing, and new wife, when he became the head of the department because I guess the old management was really bad. Great. Look at that, guys. Let me find out that this is like a 10-minute summary. It's also 300 pages, so that really helped me out a lot. But this is a pretty good book. I don't know. This is from Barnes and Nobles. I did not buy it. I got it for free somewhere, but it was a good book. I like it. It is fiction. It is realistic fiction. Okay, this is where we get to my thoughts. I have some questions written down because I obviously can't just speak my mind and then not sound like rambling for like several hours. So I wrote it down in my little handy notebook that I always talk about, but never I always use. I do everything in this notebook, even make ideas for these videos. But my first question is I'm gonna have to explain a few of these because I did not give you guys the most detail. But the first one is why did Jacqueline, who is a twin sister of Jane, end up with her current husband? Is it because she's rich or because she must stay with someone before she turns 40? So context still like 37, I think. I might be lying. But they're almost 40 and the guy she's with has been known to like break up with her or she breaks up with him multiple times. So you wouldn't expect that to be a very good relationship to like stay on. But she stays with this man after they break up and then they get engaged and the sister Jane does not know if she wants to be happy or sad depending on the sister's reaction just because it's like you were just breaking up with this man but the next time you see him, you're engaged. So for the most part, it seemed like a realistic story. Like plenty of people have been back to their exes, not married, but some people definitely think about it. But I don't know, because they're not like the main character and we don't see what's happening in the back end and we don't know what the man is even talking to her about. It makes him want to be like, oh, I actually realize I need you in my life forever and always. We don't know what their thinking process was. I think for the man, we know less because he's not a big part of the story in any way, shape, or form, except for his name and the fact that we don't like him. But the twin sister, Jacqueline, she isn't. She seems kind of superficial. She likes her looks a lot. She loves her money. She always comes off as being like the better twin because of the way she does things. You know, they're both successful in their own field. Jacqueline's the one who didn't get in house arrest, so she comes off as more like almost better than Dow, but because they're twins, they just kind of like get used to it because it's been their dynamic since they were literal kids, right? But I think she has a deeper side of her that we don't really get to explore because she is not the main character. And honestly, that makes this book longer than it should be and more, I don't know, maybe not as good of a storyline. But I do think like maybe she did just settle because she's almost 40. Couldn't find anyone else because she's pretty, I think. I mean, they're twins, so I guess she has to be pretty. But for whatever reason, she just stayed with Duncan, which is her husband's name. At one point, she did try to get with Perry because he was single at the time, and this was before Jane realized she liked Perry too. But it didn't work out with her and Perry because Perry really didn't like the sister. He liked Jane, which is cute, and that's how you know you're really fine because you're twins, and he still chose you. So, next question. That's not really much I can say on that one because I found it online. It was a good question. I was like, why did she stay with a man that we all kind of assume was a bad person? In terms of like, they keep breaking up and he didn't seem like the greatest man to be with, but I digress. It's also real estate, so whatever that means for them. Next question is what do you think of Jay's twin sister, Jacqueline? As I said before, she's kind of a better than thou situation. Like, you know, you have like those older siblings who choose to be like, oh, I know more than you. I know more than you, and you should probably listen. I do the same thing too. Don't worry about it. But I think when her, it's not like anyone was born earlier. They probably were born earlier. Someone is always born earlier. I don't know which one was born earlier, but Jacqueline comes off as a person who seems like, even though her life is similar to her sister's Jane because she's a lawyer and Jacqueline is a cosmetologist, is more of, well, look how much superficial stuff I have. Like, I have a nice place. I have a man, even though he keeps like leaving me, whatever. I have this expensive ass job. It's really nice. It's really grand. It's really sweet. Everyone who looks at me can be like, oh, you're really like you're it. And they're in New York City as well, which is like the place for fashion, for looks, for everything. None of them are in the fashion industry, but because Jacqueline does plastic surgery as well and within cosmetologists, it's like, oh, you're very high in demand. So people look at you and be like, oh, you want something fixed? Go to this woman. And Jane is like the lawyer. I forgot she's like a litigation lawyer, so whatever they do, but it's definitely not the same as being like in the fashion industry, whether it's with the face or with the clothing. So I mean, Jacqueline seemed like a typical twin. Someone's always one upping another one just to come off as very different. But I think Jacqueline made herself so different that made Jane feel like she had to catch up to her in some aspects. There was this part where she was in her home for 6 months and she did have money somehow, or she couldn't like go buy food, or whatever. And her sister would literally pay for her groceries for like several months because she was like, "Well, I don't care. I would just buy you food." And even though it was like a sweet gesture, this is like Jane just felt like, "I don't want you to do that. Like, I don't want you to. I don't want to rely on you because you already have so much against, like, so much above me that this only makes you like one more step above me and a better sister than me, even though we're like doing it for each other." So it felt made her feel kind of bad, but not in the way of being like, "Oh, I don't want you to do it because I feel guilty." It was more like, "Oh, here's another reason why you're like the better sister than me, whatever." But it's just like those little things throughout the story, and it's weird because they're almost 40, but it shows that these things never do go away just because they're older. Like, they're very close. They call like almost every day, but every time you have these conversations on the phone, Jane's always just wondering like, what is she going to talk about that's going to make me pissed today? Because she comes off as being almost self-centered as well about what she talks about. And even if it's about Jane, she kind of twisted it to be like, oh, but you could be doing better, right? Like, you kind of like we gotta show the world that you're not just a girl on house arrest, but it comes off as very snarky almost. But they're sisters, so they're used to that dynamic. And Jane can stand her ground. She just chooses to like not fight on it ever. But I like Jacqueline. I don't know. I just feel like it's not about her in the book, so it wasn't really something I look forward to being like, oh, I hated her. Like, she's a sister. Like, I don't know. It wasn't much to talk about, I think. Okay. Next question is what's the relationship between Perry and Jane a realistic storyline, or was it more of a Hallmark storyline? Because they do get together. They were seeing in like damn near the second chapter of the book, all the way to the end. Would I say it was Hallmarky? I'm not gonna lie, I don't like Hallmark movies because they honestly are so irritating and they all are the same. And it feels like the climax is that they break up because of some misunderstanding and then they come back together in 5 minutes. Like it makes, you know, but that's fine for y'all. But was it realistic? I mean, I'm not sure how many people get together during house arrest, but I guess when you have no one else, you only see the people in your bubble. But I think they were cute together. I mean, even the mom at the time, she was very irritating, came off as someone who did not want Jane to be a part of their family just because she knew her crime and was like, I don't like that. But her whole son had a crime for stealing, so I'm not sure how she thought which one was worse. But essentially, I don't think it was Hallmarky because for a long time, Jane was kind of like this cynical person who would believe like they were good, but she never wanted to say like they were in love because they were just friends with benefits the entire time. Even after the 6 months, she did really think about like having him be with her and just be like, "Oh, we're just together because of convenience, and we're both here, and we can't go many places." But like after a while, she liked having him around. He was there for a lot of the conversation that he went through. And as I said before, you get with people who are in your bubble, so they're in each other's bubble. I mean, this could have been turned to a Hallmark, but with so many storylines happening with like the Russian people going through their visa, Mandy trying to get with a with a man, as long as it doesn't matter who, her sister having all these issues. It was just like I guess it could have been like a regular degular movie, and Hallmark would have just been like, "Oh, let's find like two issues," and they're both centered around the main two storylines. But it's also a very short book, so I guess, but I don't know. I feel like it was still good. It wasn't like the sweetest love story. Like I definitely see it as like this is realistic. Like I see people getting together in this sort of fashion. Whether or not they stay together after 6 months is anyone's business. Because literally, it feels like Love Is Blind when they don't go outside, but they have like 6 months versus like a month in the pods, and they get to see each other and sleep together. So, but I don't know. I think it was a fine book. It was honestly not Hallmarky, but I also don't like romance books a lot. And this one did not give off like romancy vibes in a lot of ways. They do get together, but it's not like she did not want a traditional marriage. She just went to City Hall with a dress and her family, and that's really what she wanted, and it happened. I mean, I'm not sure how much Hallmarky you would want that to be for it to be like that. But honestly, I like this side of the way because it's just like keep it calm, keep it casual, which is really nice for me, in my opinion. And then next question is, what do you think happened to Mandy? So as I said before, Mandy in the book doesn't get with a man, which is kind of crazy because she did get married to him, but because the visa expired, he had to go away because you still have to prove that you're in love with each other even after you get married, for like visa renewals and whatever. And they weren't at that part yet. But the problem was she wanted to have like money from him in case this ever happened, right? She said there was a written contract between him and her, 100,000 euros in case anything happens, and she gets like the penthouse they lived in New York City. Dogs from why she asked for this, I don't know. But she did not have a prenup. There was no like actual legal documents, but the problem was that Jane was questioning her, why did you not just get a prenup and why did you not just like go to a lawyer prior to this? But at the same time, she was marrying him to get with a man, and the man was marrying her to get paper. So it wasn't a legal marriage at all. But long story short, Mary did not get anything. Like she did not get no money because he's gone. She didn't get the penthouse because it was never put in her name. And the penthouse wasn't even in the guy's name. It was in his dad's name. And he definitely wasn't gonna give it to her because he didn't even know her like that. And he wasn't even okay with the marriage because they wanted him to be with someone who was an American. We're gonna be honest. And honestly, Jane stopped being friends with her at the end because when Mandy found out that Jane was getting engaged, she did not seem very happy. She seemed kind of like scornful about it and was like, "You're lucky you got with this man." Well, she knew the man longer than Manny knew her own man, and she got married to him in like less than a month. So she stopped being friends with her like 2 chapters before it ended because it was just like not worth her time. Like she was trying her hardest to stay friends with her, even though this whole thing went down because of her. If we gotta be honest with her, but it was just like not worth it because it was like, well, if she's gonna act like this, and I only knew her because of convenience. Because this one really was a convenience. Like, oh, I need people to talk to in my home all day. It became more of that storyline. So I don't really think, yeah, I don't think she's doing her own thing. She's probably sad, but she's gonna live. She'll be fine. She still lives there. Well, they changed apartments actually. Jane lives in the old apartment that the Russian people used to live at because it's cheaper now because they no longer own it because of the visa issue. But last question I have is what the moral of the story? The typical question that you always ask. I don't know if there is a moral realistically. I think the moral is go to house arrest if you really want a man. But also be in a nice ass apartment in New York City because she lived at like a penthouse, not penthouse, but like one of those nice like condos in New York. And there was just a lot of other people who were rich. And she got one of those, man. But I would say the moral of the story is make a TikTok. She made a TikTok for vlogging and she got fans on there. I mean, she didn't do anything with it after the fact, so I'm not sure what to do. But like, find a hobby. I don't She had so many hobbies. She knew how to cook. She made a TikTok. She was like helping random people with their issues, even though she definitely knew how to more illegal to help with in the like visa sense. And you can find a man, or you can find a girl, you can find friends, or you can find people to talk to. You have like a bigger circle of friends. Because like 6 months, you were inside of your home for 6 months, and you came out with like three extra more people to be friends with. Like that's kind of crazy. You came out with a whole man after like being under house arrest. Moral of the story is go under house arrest, but also don't because legally I can't give you that advice. But there is no real moral. I think it's just a really good book, which just makes the question kind of dumb. But I like it. It's a nice little play on word, misdemeanor. You know, her name is Jane Morgan. She is a lawyer, and there doesn't seem to be a second book to this, at least not in what I've saw online. And was there a movie for it? I'm gonna say no because this came out in 2013, and I did not hear anything about no movie coming out, especially online. But it was a good. I rated it like a good 7 out of 10. It's also very super easy to read. Like look at these. I mean, this is like a young adult kind of book. You can read this in like in high school, to be honest with you. But that is a book I finished today. I have a different book I'm trying to go through. 800 pages is a crazy amount of pages, but it's also fiction as heck. So fiction books are really hard. This is also fiction, but like based in reality. That book is fiction, you know. And I'm trying to figure out people's names and what the heck these people. They had maps in this book, and I did not want to go through it at all because I don't want to talk about it. I'm so worried to talk about that book so bad. But that is the end of this video. Hope you enjoy. Yes, it's technically this video was completed in March. I know it will be updated in April. Don't worry about it. It's okay. But we'll see you guys. Oh, I will see you guys in the next like video. But for book related content, you'll see me next month. Honestly, hopefully that book gets finished. I'll have like basically 2 months to finish this book. So if I don't finish it, it was pretty boring or it was pretty long. But yeah, I will talk to you guys again when like April officially starts, just to talk about more of my plans of what I want to do more on my channel. Not like we're not changing anything, we're not restructuring anything. It's just more of a like, what am I going to talk about this month now that the women's month's over, and I want to do more tech related stuff. Not tech, but like job related stuff and like career related stuff, and upskilling and stuff like that. Just because like I'm dealing with issues in my job, and I feel like we both need like that reassurance that like what we do at our jobs is not a finance for every job. And I just want to get more into that next month, just because it's close to May, and May is when people get their offer letters for a lot of jobs, unless they came earlier. But usually May is like everyone else. So hopefully I get an idea for that, and I think of a game plan way before that. So you should get a video again for me this week. If not, next week. I did not make any plans ever so often. So I will see you guys literally in my next video. Thank you for watching. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, and put a comment down what book I should really buy or get into next. Because while I have books right now, they're gonna finish soon, and I might actually find I like reading again. So far, I've not found out I like reading again. I feel like that's just irritating. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys again next time. Peace and love. Bye bye.